Okay, hear me out because this needs to be said, right? If you're in the real estate industry or you have a job title where you offer a service to clients, right, for money, however, you're earning that money, if you're actually working inside of your job, inside of your industry, and you're not utilizing a CRM, you are absolutely wasting your time and not really growing your business. I know what you're thinking. What an outrageous thing to say, right? But today we're going to talk about why that's true, what other real estate professionals in the industry that I've interviewed are actually doing in their business, and what they think about a CRM, and really just everything to do with client follow-up in the first place. So don't go anywhere, because if you don't even know what a CRM stands for, then you are going to be left behind while your competitors work less and make more money, which is really the whole end result in utilizing a CRM and building a business in the first place. All right, guys, so let's talk about what the heck does a CRM really even stand for, right? Because there's a lot of definitions that I hear getting thrown around, in a lot of different industries, right? So it could stand for a customer relationship management, or I've heard customer relationship machine. But if you don't really have customers because you don't sell physical or digital products to anyone, then really it could stand for a client relationship machine or a client relationship management, right? All a CRM really is just a piece of software that basically makes all of your follow-up way more efficient, right? Basically, it's like it puts your follow-up on steroids. I know that's kind of a weird analogy, but that's basically what it does. And it's also a list builder, right? Because I know if you guys have studied even a basic level of what business is, right? You know how you always hear people talking about, I got to grow my list. I got to keep on growing my list. You don't have a real business unless you grow your list. What does list even really mean? And what is everyone talking about when they keep on talking about building their list, right? So building a list essentially is just utilizing a CRM and adding, your leads or your closed leads inside of your CRM. Why is this important, right? Why is this really important? This is important because, just working with a lot of your clients in whatever industry you're in, obviously this is a real estate channel. So everything, all the examples and analogies I'll give you in this channel has to do with being a real estate agent, right? Because that's what this channel is all about, right? So if you're a real estate agent, I guess growing your list, what that really means is channeling all of your potential leads, even if you don't close them, and all of your closed leads inside of your CRM software tool. And what you're basically essentially doing is you're storing their contact information inside of this piece of software that's actually very, very cheap. Right? CRMs are not very expensive. We're talking 20, 30, 40, maybe $50 a month. That's really all it takes as a real estate agent. Really, really large scale online companies might have to pay a couple $100s because they're working with hundreds of thousands of leads. But as real estate agents, even 1,000 leads or 2,000 contacts is a lot of clients, right? That would normally take us years, to arrive at that customer or that lead limit, right? So luckily for us, we can all kind of piggyback and benefit from not paying a lot of money monthly for a CRM, which is another reason you should definitely be using it in your business, right? Because as a real estate agent, it's not even that expensive to get a CRM, right? Because we don't work with thousands or tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands or a million customers in the first place. But let's go back to adding the list and why that's valuable, right? So the thing here is every real estate agent knows that you've probably heard this at least one time in your career, right? The fortune is in the follow-up, right? Everyone's heard that. I bet if you're, when you were first starting off, if you ever had like a team lead or a sponsoring broker, I bet they really try to emphasize for you guys, to improve your follow-ups on a daily or on a weekly basis, right? Even if you're not the sharpest business leader in the world. It's like at this point, everyone understands that the fortune truly is in the follow up, right? But if you're a top producing real estate agent like myself and a lot of my followers, realistically, probably most of you guys, unless you truly understand how to utilize a CRM in an advanced way, you're probably not doing follow up, right? I mean, if you're a top producer, you're probably not following up as much as you should, right? Probably 90% of us listening to this or watching this right now, there's been at least a period in our careers where we've produced a high income because we're top producers, but like you never really followed up ever, right? I mean, even myself, when I first started off as a real estate agent, the first couple of years, I never followed up with anyone, not even really once, right? The only clients that I would maybe shoot a text or two or do a couple more phone calls if the process was clearly proceeding and I knew I was about to close that lead, right? But in the back of your mind, you can understand how if you did follow up, several times over several days, over a long period of time, even with the leads that you're not too sure about, all the way up to the leads that you feel good about, we could all agree that you'd probably make more money, right? But the thing is, as human beings, and especially if you're inside of the apartment locating industry where you're working with so many leads, right? We work with so many leads compared to being a realtor. So follow up ends up being even harder in our fast-paced apartment locating based leads that we have to deal with, right? So follow up is like almost really impossible when you're doing, 30 to 100 leads every single month. It's a lot of people to really just talk to. So working with the CRM sort of allows us to automate all of the emailing follow-up back and forth. Even if you have like a modern CRM, you can actually implement text message follow-up as well, which the open rate for text messages, as we all know, is like over 90% compared to 20 to 40% max with email open rates, right? So the whole point of a CRM is to really get creative and follow up with all of your leads, even your less promising leads, automatically for you while you sleep. All right, so that's the point of it. It's hugely, hugely valuable. And for like 30 to 50 bucks a month, come on, that's just unbelievably valuable. You close one apartment locator lead and it's $2,000. You close one house and it's $10,000 to $20,000, right? So for 50 bucks a month to follow up with absolutely all of your leads ever is just such a fantastic value. And I don't really see a lot of real estate professionals utilizing it, right? I actually interviewed a couple of brokerages. One of the first brokerages I was at, and then the second one where I actually managed that brokerage firm, I interviewed everyone. The funny thing is that most top producers, right? Because I made it a point to really sit down with top producers from several different brokerage firms in my city, which is Austin, Texas. And the results I got were really, really incredible, right? Most top producers, like we're talking six-figure top producers, right? No one ever really follows up. Out of two modern, decently sized brokerage firm, I think there was like two agents at each firm that even kind of had an understanding of what a CRM was, and they weren't even really utilizing it in the best way possible, right? So it's just interesting to me how, even without follow-up, you could still become a top producer and earn six figures. It's so cool. But when you really, really implement and understand the power of a CRM and use it properly, then you can seriously double or triple your sales production all while you sleep. And that's such a huge asset that we shouldn't just throw that away, especially in today's digital world where everything is going online in the first place. So another really important, don't go anywhere, right? Listen to this last point before you bounce out of this video, right? The last really critical point I want to bring up and talk about is how, if you are truly in the apartment locating industry, a really interesting statistic in my business is that every single year after I close several rental clients and help them find an apartment for free and I get paid $1,000 or $2,000 or $3,000 per deal, right? After that's said and done at the end of the year, in my market, about 10 or 15% of my past rental clients that I've closed actually buy a house the year after that, right? And I know it's a low percentage, like 10% is not really a big percentage, right? But if you actually study the numbers, right, you know, even if I close about 30 rental deals a month, but even if just like the average apartment locator is closing 10 leads every single month, what's 10 leads closed times 12 months in a year, right? That's 120 clients that you've closed to earn six figures that year, right? But the amazing part is that if 10% of your 120 people that you closed are going to buy a house next year, really utilizing and getting the most out of your CRM can make it really, really easy to nurture the relationship while your closed clients are living out their usually 1 year lease term, right? You can communicate with them all throughout the lease term, give them value, be in their thoughts. That's kind of the whole point of utilizing a CRM. It's just to be inside of your closed clients' minds and thoughts, on a monthly basis, right? So at the end of the year, when they're actually interested in buying a house, because 10% will always buy a house every single year, always like clockwork. Then it becomes really interesting when you can represent them as a buyer's agent and then inevitably earn buyer agent commission. The average is 3% here in the United States. If you close 120 people, I mean, I closed like 300, but if you close 120 people and 10% of them, you'll be their buyer's agent, that's 12 clients that you can represent as a realtor. And earn, the 10 grand or however much the commission is 12 times. Right. So, if you're earning a $10,000 commission, what is that? Like 3% of like a $350,000 home or so, or maybe 400,000. I can't really do the math right now, but you get my point, right? If you got 12 that you're going to represent, and for a $10,000 commission next year by default without any extra work, because your CRM nurtured the relationship throughout the whole year of your apartment rental clients, because you were an apartment locator first, because it makes sense, right? If that happens, what's $10,000 commission per client times 12? Holy crap, that's $120,000. Right? And potential almost guaranteed income for the next year, because 10% of your apartment rental clients got nurtured and they thought of you because of your CRM that did it for you while you slept every day and worked on new leads, right? That's nothing to throw away or to laugh at, right? To just get a guaranteed 120 grand next year, just because you're utilizing a $50 a month CRM. And so that's what people talk about when we hear the term like, hey, you got to build your pipeline first, right? You got to build your pipeline, right? It's not about doing it in person and try to build these relationships manually and manually follow up, right? That's not the golden nugget, right? You can't build a pipeline in an efficient way doing everything manually and over the phone. It just doesn't work anymore. It might have worked 20 years ago or 10 years ago, but it just doesn't work anymore, right? So if you want to actually build your real estate pipeline and strengthen your marketing and actually lower the amount of hard work you're putting in year after year, but still earn more or the same, then you need to actually utilize a CRM. That's how you seriously build your pipeline, right? So that way, every time someone tells you got to build your pipeline as a real estate agent, now you know what they're actually talking about. You do that through a CRM. You get very, very creative with your responses. And let's talk about the content that you need to add inside your CRM in order for that thing to actually work, right? Because when I see people's automations inside of their CRM, like what kind of like the email content, their auto sending out, and the text messages, a lot of it is very like salesy and advertisey for your brokerage firm or something. That's a huge mistake, because in order to really build a good relationship with humans, because your clients and your customers are humans, right? You can't take that sales approach, right? So I look at a lot of brokers and a lot of agents automations inside of their CRMs, and it's all like, hey, let us sell your home. Hey, prices are lower this year. You should contact us, like book an appointment. And it's very, very salesy. And no one really likes that as a human, right? And so what I do differently in my CRM automations, what I teach my students inside of my masterclass and my coaching program is to sort of add value instead, right? Because you have to ask yourself, what's the ultimate goal in nurturing a good relationship throughout the year, and what's really gonna help you connect with your clients, which are real people, right? And it's not just by emailing them and texting them all these sales pitches for them to book a call and use you or give you referrals. Like, that's not what it's about, right? So what I do differently is I go ahead and I just do some quick research on my city, right? And I like to just do email automations and text automations that are just adding value, right? And so if there's what you can do is just do a quick Google search on real estate news in whatever your city is, right? You can do this in any state, in any market, right? And if there's a new development coming up or something, and usually there's how they give you timelines when there's like a new development or something coming up. I'm just trying to give you guys some real examples here, but I like to do some research like that, and then add a few emails in my CRM that's like, hey, you need to check out this development. Like, they say it's a good opportunity. This would be a really, really interesting first time home purchase because the values are expected to shoot up based on this article. Hey, you should check out the article. Like, you're not selling anything. You're not asking them to book an appointment. You're not asking them to like send their friends and family a referral to your brokerage firm. You're just adding value, right? And another thing I like to do is, because they might still be renters throughout their lease term and then the year after, right? What I like to do is I like to give apartment rental advice as well, right? So I might do another email where it's like, you're letting them know, like, hey, did you know that actually sometimes leasing a luxury apartment is actually, less expensive than an older apartment that looks cheaper through the base rent? And it's like, this is what I mean, and then I talk about like how it's like the utility difference. I talk about how newer apartments have probably they sublet the water, the energy, if the utilities are more energy efficient, and sometimes that makes up the difference in base rent. So these things that kind of wow your customers or your clients on your list, and just to give them value, asking for nothing in exchange. So they're like, oh wow, I didn't know that, this is really cool. And so I like to just do value add emails, once a week or once a month. And the goal here isn't really to ask these people for anything. It's just to stay relevant. So I think if you've learned nothing from this, from what I've blabbered on about at this point, right? I guess the main golden nugget is when you're setting up your CRM and you're trying to find out what kind of content to put in there to build a relationship and stay relevant to people. The number one thing you need to think about when coming up with content to add into your emails or your texts is just value add. The whole point really is you to stay relevant and for them to see an email from you or see a text message, just so they're thinking about you, and they're not forgetting what your name is, and they're not forgetting that you were their apartment locator, right? So you can start your emails like, hey, what's up? It's your apartment locator. How's your apartment doing? Sometimes I just ask them how everything is going. And that's pretty much it, right? So keep your email simple. That's going to really, really help you stay relevant, and you're asking for value. And then the last few emails, like towards the end of their lease term, about 60 days before they move out, then I'll go in and say, hey, like, you should consider buying. These are the advantages. Like, did you know rent on a 3-bedroom, it's like $2,000, where, as long as you have a decent 3% down payment, you could pay less and get a 3-bedroom house, right? So then emails like that I will send out later towards the end of their lease term. And a lot of the times, they're actually going to read my email months later because they know my emails aren't spammy or salesy. And a lot of the times that really, really helps build that actual real connection and relationship. And then you can become their realtor if they're ready to buy a house next year. And even if they're not ready to buy a house the year after, you can still be their apartment locator again. If they need to move out, maybe, switch a job location, or they want a fancier apartment complex, or they want something cheaper, so you can represent them again and then profit, again, right? And whenever you close an existing client that you've closed before, it's so much easier. It's like 10 times easier to close them again in the future, right? So that's the big thing. That's what building a list actually means. It's utilizing CRM. Building your pipeline in real estate has nothing to do with you driving around the city like begging for referrals, right? It's all done in a modern way through a CRM. And if you guys want to learn more about how to actually utilize a CRM, I have a coaching program. It's actually only targeted for apartment locators. All of my teachings right now is targeted and really focused on the apartment locating niche, because I like the apartment locating niche because it's easier. There's only 3 life cycle stages of closing clients instead of like 10 plus life cycle stages as being a realtor. So all of my teachings, even though they can be applied to being a realtor with everything I teach, I do use a lot of examples with apartment locating because I freaking love this niche, because it's so easy to make 6 figures, right? So why would I work harder when I can just do apartment locating and work less but make the same or more money, right? And if I do become a realtor and represent my rental clients later, it's just so much easier because it wasn't even a cold lead anymore. I've already helped them. So the whole process is easier, and that's why it all makes sense. So if you guys want further information about some of my teachings and how I can help you actually give you automations that are pre-made if you become one of my paid students, all you got to do is click the link somewhere below or above or in the description of this video or audio, whatever this ends up being, or you can just visit pierremeji.com/register and hit my latest webinar. It's going to break down what apartment locating is, if this business could actually be a good opportunity for you, and it's going to talk about how to get started. So I hope you guys appreciated today's topic. What the heck is a CRM and why you should be using it in order to scale your business year after year and seriously build your pipeline in the best way possible. I will see you guys on the next.